All right, so what is Gen pressing? I've seen this commented on some of my tactical videos that I might want to check out this style of football. It says it's the best counter to build up. It's like a pressing style of football. I'm just going to give kind of a prediction here before I watch this video, watch the explanation of what I think this is going to be like. If it's a pressing style of football, it's going to be based on radical and intense defense. So pressing multiple players on whoever has the ball, trying to force turnover so we can counterattack. So I'm guessing that this is going to be a more counterattack based style of football. It's called the high press. I see that here in the video description. And if it's a high press, I'm assuming that we're trying to press the center backs immediately, trying to create turnovers in a disadvantageous position so that we can score off of the counter. So they're not trying to build up by progressing the ball through the midfield, kind of the Pep Guardiola possession style football. I'm guessing Gen pressing, they don't really care much at all for possession. It doesn't matter. All they care for is they're going to try to force turnovers in that position so that they can have scoring opportunities. That's my assessment of what I'm about to watch. I might be completely wrong. Let's have it explained. Here we go.
In our last video, we covered the benefits of building from the back line, as it creates space further up the pitch for the strikers to exploit. Before you watch today's video, I highly suggest you check that video out to see why teams employ that tactic, because today we're looking at the best counter to build up the high press. Pressing is when the defending team put pressure on the opposition, either by closing them down, closing down the players around them, or by forcing the opposition to make a specific play that is easier to stop.
Forcing a player, yeah.
It's an active part of the game that requires every player to move together and
now, I think every philosophy, whether you're a Gen pressing kind of team or a high press kind of team, every philosophy of football is going to have pressing involved at some point in the tactic. Like, how else do you play defense? Like, you want to play intense defense so that you can, especially like for me, I have a more possession style philosophy, kind of Pep Guardiola tiki-taka. Not really tiki-taka, but that style of we're going to keep the ball. We're going to possess the ball and try to score methodically like that. Well, in order to play that really well, if you ever lose possession, you need to be pressing so that you can regain it. Like, you don't want to play without the ball. So I think no matter what your philosophy of football is, you're going to have a press at some point in this. And it looks like this, like I was right, like this high press is, we're going to be pressing, we're pressing immediately so that the team can't get the ball played into the midfield, or they can't, or we're forcing them to play on one side of the pitch. We're forcing from the beginning, so they can't build up their attack. I like it. I do like the idea here. This is what I guess it would be the equivalent of in basketball what we would call a full court press. We often would run a full court press when we were when we're trying to come back into a game. When I played basketball, we would often run a full court press. You're pressing them as soon as they get the ball played. Here we go.
Certain areas of the pitch. During a press, the players will have a different task depending on their position. The attackers will usually look to put pressure on the opposition defenders by chasing them down. The midfielders will look to block passing lanes and shadow mark the opposition's midfielders. And the defenders will need to maintain the defensive line, moving up and down along with the team to squeeze the space available to play. The defending team can choose to initiate their press at any time. A high block will immediately put pressure on defenders and goalkeepers. A mid block will look to start their press near the center and will aim to stop the midfielders from having time and space on the ball. While a low defensive block, also known as parking the bus, will aim to completely...
Right, and low defensive block or parking the bus, that's something that Mourinho does a lot. I saw someone comment on one of my videos that there's like a phrase that in football, you park the bus like Mourinho or something like that. So... and like Dyke ball would be it's like Sean Dyke, how they are playing the long ball game, the long passing type of game. Low block. Okay, so I'm guessing here we have a high block press, a mid block press, and a low block press. This is kind of some basics of this Jin pressing.
Limit the space in front of goal. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be focusing mostly on the high block structure, as this is the most common in the high press.
The high press, yeah.
However, if the low and mid block is something you'd like to see, then let me know in the comments down below. The pressing game is by no means an innovative tactic and has been around for many decades, but the style and frequency has changed drastically in the past few years, thanks to possession-hungry managers such as Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Julian Nagelsmann. These managers and their teams aim to dominate the game by retaining the ball as much as possible. And the best way to do this is to regain possession as soon as you've lost it.
As soon as possible.
In the 1970s, Rinus Michels' legendary Dutch team took the world by storm with their aggressive pressing game, and is something that looks rather outdated when compared to the structure of a modern-day press. A decade later, an Arrigo Sacchi's AC Milan would dominate the club scene with a similarly aggressive pressing game. Needless to say, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to the press, and each team will have their own unique ways of forcing the opposition into giving up possession. But there are a few key components that are present within each pressing move: pressing triggers and pressing traps. A pressing trigger is a set of circumstances that act as a prompt for a team to initiate their press.
Okay.
A lot of these may seem pretty obvious and intuitive. However, it is fundamental for the team to consistently recognize these patterns. Some examples include a bad touch or a bad pass, a moment of hesitation, or when the receiving player has their back to goal. All these should be cues for the player closest to the ball to start closing down the space immediately, and will need to be supported by his teammates to effectively limit the space needed to move the ball forward. However, not all mistakes should lead to a press, and the defending team will need to check their shape before aggressively closing down the opposition, as if not enough players are ready to move, then this will just lead to the team leaving dangerous gaps that can be exploited. Secondly, pressing traps are a more tactical method of forcing the opposition into an uncomfortable position. They usually require more organisation and are tougher to execute, as you're not relying on the opposition making a mistake. An example could be closing the centre of the pitch and forcing play out wide, where it's easier to defend as the pressing team can use the touchline as an extra defender. Or the defending team will seemingly allow a player in midfield to receive the ball.
That's something I established in my philosophy already, just watching some of these tactical videos, that I would rather have teams playing on the outside of the pitch than playing things through the middle. You play things through the middle, and especially if the team's got competent midfielders, they're just going to eat you apart. They're just pick you apart because they are going to find outlets, find open passers, find quality players up the pitch, and open up more and more scoring opportunities. So I would rather play people out to the side, like he's saying. You have the sideline there so that you can use that as an extra defender. It's harder for teams because they're going to have to make crossing passes across the pitch in order to score, and leaves you more opportunities for turnover and interception, things like that. So yeah, I totally agree with this here, which is trying to set up a pressing formation here, or a block is what he's calling it, high block or something like that, where we're forcing the center backs in the back line here to play the ball out to the outside rather than playing it into the middle. I like that.
Before being closed down by multiple players. An alternative could see them leave the opposition player completely unmarked, but will effectively close down all the passing options available, forcing either a difficult pass or an individual play from the attacker. Both triggers and traps are essential for any effective press, and is here where we see the true genius of some of the best managers in the modern game, with their own unique approach to regaining possession. To gain a good understanding of the different ways of pressing, we're going to be taking a look at three key managers: Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Julian Nagelsmann. These three managers aim to achieve similar results with their high press. However, there are a few differences in how they're executed. Let's start with Jurgen Klopp. Firstly, to truly understand Jurgen Klopp's style of pressing, it's important to understand the concept of gegenpressing. Gegenpressing or counter-pressing is a tactic in which after losing possession, the team will immediately attempt to win the ball back.
Good lord, I've been calling it Jin this entire video. Go ahead, load it up. I already know it's coming. There's going to be about 400 comments below this video telling me it's not Jin, it's Gegen. Thank you guys. I figured it out. You know, we're 10 minutes into filming here, but Gegenpressing. Pressing. All right, here we go.
Rather than regrouping and allowing the opposition to settle. The main idea behind this is that the opposition is at its most vulnerable as soon as they have the ball, as the team will rarely be correctly set up to start their attack immediately. At Liverpool, we can see how the front three players will dictate the direction in which the opposition need to play the ball. Firmino will shadow mark the holding midfielder. The wingers, Salah and Mane, will position themselves between the centre-backs and the full-backs, forcing a play inside, where the two midfielders will mark the opposition midfielders, meaning the team in possession is immediately forced to go long or to play the ball out wide, where Liverpool can force them into a tough spot near the touchline. If the opposition is fooled into playing the ball into the midfield, then this is where Liverpool are at their most dangerous, as if they regain possession, the positioning of Mane and Salah in the half space is a tricky one to stop, and Klopp's team can immediately create a dangerous opportunity. At Liverpool, the fullbacks also play a very important role during the press, and either Robertson or Trent Alexander-Arnold will join in on the press along with the strikers and the wingers. With one joining in, the other will move more centrally and form a back three with the centre-backs to ensure the team has enough cover for any potential long balls. So the main idea behind Klopp's style of press is to immediately create chances for the strikers and maintain the ball in the opposition's final third. Now, while Pep Guardiola's style of press is just as effective, there are a few different...
So that's exactly what I was thinking that this was going to be. You're trying to maintain possession, but you're trying to maintain possession in the opposing third. So you're pressing early on to create chances, basically. So I think that's exactly what I predicted at the beginning of the video about gegenpressing.
Differences in what he's trying to achieve. Pep Guardiola's main objective is to keep possession of the ball for as much as possible, and instead of wanting to immediately create a scoring opportunity, Guardiola's team will look to restart their attacks. By doing this, Manchester City can ensure they have more control of the ball and can dictate play in a more organised and structured manner. On the pitch, this translates to a less aggressive initial press, but with more players blocking any possible passing lanes, and force possession into a specific area. For example, with one of the centre-backs on the ball, the striker will apply just enough pressure to force a play. The wingers will cover the centre-backs, and the midfielders will cover any passes into the centre, meaning the only realistic option is for the defender to go long to the striker, where the defending team can regain possession and start their attacks from this position. Guardiola is also a key proponent of the 6-second rule, in which he instructs his players to regain possession within 6 seconds after losing it. It's one of the main reasons as to why Manchester City always have such high possession stats compared to other teams. Finally, newly appointed Bayern Munich manager...
That's interesting. This is similar. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a 6-second rule, but when I was playing American football, and even as a coach, when I'm coaching, if I'm ever working with the defense, we had a rule that as soon as a play was made and the ball was in motion, like say we know it's a running play, or we know the ball has been received. Since in American football the ball is only played once, it's not passed back and forth. We had a 6-second rule that if within 6 seconds, if there needs to be 11 guys on the ball immediately. So if the entire defense does not touch the ball carrier within 6 seconds, then they had to run extra sprints. So we had this kind of mindset of, like, we need to get the ball back. We need to swarm the ball. As soon as there's a ball carrier and we know who has the ball, everybody is selling out. You're getting there immediately. And there's more reasons why that works in American football. It definitely would not work in football, because you would need to maintain some sort of formation. But a 6-second rule. So 6 seconds after losing possession, we need to try to be regaining the possession back. I like it.
Julian Nagelsmann is also known for his rather aggressive pressing tactics. Firstly, Bayern Munich will look to play with a very high line, aided by the sweeper keeper in Manuel Neuer. Their 4-2-3-1 formation will often morph into more of a lopsided 4-4-2, with Sané pushing high alongside Lewandowski, and will look to cover the centre-back pair. Muller has excellent spatial awareness and will make sure there is no chance of central progression, meaning the only viable option is to the fullbacks. However, from here, Gnabry can close the space down, and now Bayern Munich can have 4 players around the ball and will make it very difficult to get out. Nagelsmann has tended to adopt a more man-oriented press, and rather than specifically cutting out key passing lanes, will apply a lot of pressure on the player receiving the ball. If they're able to turn over possession, then Sané's advanced position can immediately create danger, as his excellent dribbling and pace mean he can immediately threaten goal or look to pick out Lewandowski in the box. Nagelsmann has somehow injected more energy into an already impressive Bayern Munich squad, who look to dominate games with possession and verticality. Now, the list doesn't end there, and obviously there are plenty of other managers with...
I really like that from Nagelsmann. I'll look more into that. If you guys have a video that I can check out of Nagelsmann's tactics explained, I'm going to try to feature that here on the channel, because I think I really like that idea of a man-to-man press, as opposed to just trying to shut down outlets and passing lanes. We're going to try to press man-to-man. I like that. It creates some interesting scenarios. I'm going to learn more about that. I'm not sure that I can fully analyze what's happening there yet, but I like the idea, and my brain is already, already got the gears turning trying to figure that out. But anyway, yeah, I really like that from Bayern Munich, and I'd love to see that in action.
Their own unique approach to the high press, but will usually come down to these 2 categories, either looking to immediately start a counterattack or to regain possession and start the attack from the back line. And now let me know what you think. What's your favourite style of press, and who is your favourite manager that uses this tactic? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're still watching to the end of this video, thank you so much for your support. If you want to directly help contribute to the channel... Alright,
what's interesting here for me, and I've got to think through this personally, what I think here. I tend to like Guardiola's possession-based football philosophy. I understand it. It makes sense. It's kind of what I relate to. Just, keep the ball. We're going to make short passes. We're going to try to play the ball up methodically, and things like that. We're not going to be super aggressive. We're going to try to just maintain possession, play possession-style football. I'm not sure that I agree with him on his press, though. His press is designed to get the ball back into their possession so that they can set up their attack again, so that they can build up, the play. Because he likes to methodically pick apart the opponent. I think I actually prefer a pressing style that prizes counterattack. I want to score points, and so I would like to, if we have possession of the ball, I would like to play, from the back line up and methodically work the field and maintain possession. I love possession play, but for me, if I'm going to be pressing, I'm pressing because I'm trying to get the ball in the net. So I think I like maybe Klopp's style a little bit more here. You can still play possession football, but also play an aggressive press defensively, trying to create opportunities for goals. So maybe there's a hybrid there, and I'm not exactly sure. I might be just saying utter nonsense, but I hope that you can see the gears turning right now. I'm really thinking it through. Yeah. I've got a lot to think about, and I'll probably do more videos about this. If you're interested in this at all, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I've got other tactical videos. I'm probably going to start making some more in-depth tactic videos for my Patreon subscribers. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, join the Patreon down below. There will be a link in the description. Right now we're doing Ted Lasso reactions. We're starting to toy with Football Manager and extra extended podcast episodes and things like that. So if you're interested in that extra content and you think you enjoy the channel enough that you'd be willing to send a couple dollars my way, I would definitely appreciate it. And it'll help me make even more high quality content. But yeah, I've got a lot to think about. This video was very thought-provoking. I might have to do a video where I go in more depth on my personal football philosophy and my own tactical ideas. That being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.